What is up, homies? It's Paul Chin, and I'm here with another episode of Answering Your DMs. What are we answering DMs about? It's my new EP that has leaked, and a bunch of people have heard already. Why have they heard it? Well, couldn't get any of the press or the media to answer my emails or calls, so I decided if I'm gonna get interviewed by anybody, it may as well be you. So I sent out my EP to anybody who asked for it in exchange for 3 questions. I've been answering your questions. I think you've had a lot of good ones, and we're gonna just keep doing that. You can go check out previous episodes to hear some of the questions about the music that's been asked. And, if you want to hear the music for yourself, well, Professional is coming out November 4th. That'll be everywhere except for Spotify. You can go pre-order on Bandcamp right now. You can go pre-save everywhere else. And if you really, really, really can't wait, I'm having a listening party in Toronto and online at Bandcamp on October 30th. So without further ado, let's just get into these questions and see what you wanted to know. This one comes from Blurst Heretic. Did you write the lyrics for Serpentine before or after the music? That song felt healing to me. It was defiant, but somehow also matter-of-fact and tactful. I wouldn't say diplomatic, but there was an element of, okay, I'm releasing all these feelings because I've processed them. With all due respect, which is none, my ops suck. And although the message was clear-cut, the sound was still really captivating and made me reflect on similar connections I've had / lost in the past. I don't really write any of my music all in one shot or in order necessarily. I am pretty sure that lyrics for the intro to the song, I might have had some of those written down just in a note before I wrote anything, because I was thinking about what kind of vibe I would want, and I knew that I wanted this sort of like jazzy like sample thing to start off a track at some point. There are 1 or 2 lines in like the second section that I had also written before I had made that part of the beat, but then a lot of it kind of came after each piece was put together. So I did that first section, and then I refined and kind of tidied up the rhymes that I had just so that they would fit that groove a little better. And especially for like the part where I knew I was gonna have this like beat switch, the tempo jumps like 10 BPM, and of course like the energy changes and I'm starting up that build. The final part of it was like writing the verse, the ego in panic, etc., etc. That was basically the order in which it all kind of came. But it's one of those things where I knew what the ultimate output of that track was going to sound like, even if I hadn't picked all the sounds or laid in the scaffolding yet. And so it was just a matter of being like, all right, write something that's really down tempo and kind of exhausted and weary, and then write some stuff that's almost like haunting and maybe a little passive aggressive. And then of course, for the verse, just being like, I told you so, or I said what I said, and this is all I'm gonna have to say about it. Yeah, the song is a little bit of an interrogation or a call to interrogate themselves. Thirsty Villain asks, where have you landed with equipping yourself to understand what was happening with the friendships in your life? Honestly, figuring out what was happening was maybe the quickest part. Like, a lot of these relationships collapsed in such quick succession, and it was obvious to me almost immediately that I was like, oh, this is abnormal. This is not a normal way that relationships progress or come to their conclusion, because I'm having such a random assortment of people in my life. Some I've known for a long time, some I haven't known that long, all from different corners of my life. These are people who don't even know each other. Our relationships are different, and the ways in which we have been in each other's lives are different. But all of a sudden, all of these people like wanted to pick fights with me, almost as if they were looking for an excuse to kind of irreparably terminate this friendship. And once I kind of clocked it, I was like, oh, this is like the nuclear option that's going off for all of these people all the time. And that's like not normal. Like, that barely happens in your long-term relationships in most cases. And once I kind of clocked that, oh, this is abnormal, was the first thing I brought to my therapist, and we spent months and months and months talking about it. And even as we were talking about it, new incidents would come up from other people, and it would be like, have a session every week or every couple of weeks, and before we can like even catch up or continue talking about the last friendship breakup, I got another one to drop, and it's almost the same story. So I think, yeah, just talking about it in real time as it was all going on was really helpful, because I was able to identify, oh, I'm just having the same conversation. Like in describing this, or in describing each of these incidents, I'm having the same conversation, and these are all sort of mirroring each other in like a truly surreal kind of way. It's almost spooky. And in so doing, I was able to then kind of think about, like, what are the claims these people are making, or what are the gripes that they're bringing, what are the ways in which they're actually refusing to engage as like people in a relationship who, you know, I assumed would be accountable to each other in that way. Once I kind of figured out a lot of these like blow-ups are downright unreasonable, or at least are unreasonable as far as I can ascertain, because, you know, in a lot of cases, some of these people were just like, you're dead to me, I'm like cutting you out of my life and we'll never speak again, which left me without the ability to directly gain closure from them. In clocking that, I was like, oh, this is kind of the same thing happening. And then furthermore, once I had realized, oh, it's like outrageous out here in terms of what people think is like, I don't know, an acceptable way to be or manage or even choose to terminate like a friendship or a relationship in this way, then I would hear from other people who were like, I also had like a longtime friend who just like a switch flipped overnight for them and we weren't friends anymore. It was night and day and people were getting caught off guard. And I was like, oh, this is happening to a lot of people. That also really helped. Going back to this idea of like, it's very validating to hear that you didn't really invent some new phenomenon around being a human being, because at least then you know you're not alone, even if you don't know how to solve it or fix it. That was also really helpful. And then another thing that I think I'm very fortunate to have been able to have, and I know that this is in no way like a normal or accessible channel for most people, is like one of my good friends, Dr. Kelsey Harris. She's a professor at the University of Victoria, and she specializes in intergroup friendships. So I literally know a doctor of friendships, and I talked with her about this. I did actually originally want to work with her for another component of this project and actually try to get some academic research into the phenomenon of friendships blowing up, self-destructing in a post-pandemic world, because I do have a theory that the pandemic kind of melted people's brains socially, specifically with regard to friendships. I wanted just some like real answers, even if they would never make those people be my friend again, or you know what I mean? Like that would never change the outcome, that would never change how I felt about it. But I think it would have at least just been beneficial to have something codified somewhere. This idea that, oh, you're not alone. You're not alone, and this is actually something that maybe all of us should think about more than we have been, which is to say friendships and how to be. All right, one more from Maya. Curious about the album title, Professional. So if you haven't clocked it by now, we've talked about it a little bit, but yeah, the title is Professional. This EP is not the full project, it is just part one of an ongoing project that I'm rolling out. But yeah, Professional is the name of this project for a reason. Without giving too much away about the whole thing, the very obvious answer is I had to seek a lot of professional help to make it out of this whole experience. I spent a lot of time with my therapist. I spent time talking to a literal doctor of friendship. I came out of all of these experiences knowing basically nothing except that I am wholly unequipped to understand what is going on, because as it turns out, I have a very different, definition, understanding, expectation of friendship from other people. And I think that there's not really any way to resolve the friendships that I no longer have, but I definitely did not want to just keep vibing through it in relationships with other people, just assuming that, yeah, I got it from here. I got it under control. I know how to prevent that from happening in future. And I actually wanted to consult with people who had good stuff to tell me about why other people might act the way they do. Because for a living, they speak with other people and have an understanding of how other people are acting and moving in their relationships. The music that I put on this side of the project, on Professional, I really wanted that to be reflective of the learnings that I kind of have taken out of that work, on myself, out of that work for myself, to obviously share what I've learned and come to understand. But also, I wanted to put some of these tunes out. Hopefully, people who are no longer my friends might hear it, might hear about it, might be inspired to think about things in a way that I'm pretty sure they were not thinking about or considering before. How they move in relationships, how they move in friendship, how they move without accountability to the people in their lives. And I wanted that to be on record as like, look, it's not just me saying this. This is all advice from a professional. So that's the title. That's where you get that. There's more to be said about that later. All right, that pretty much does it for this episode. Thank you to everybody who's been sending your questions. Thank you to everybody who's been pre-ordering and pre-saving. It really does so much for an independent artist like me, so I appreciate that. I'm so grateful. Professional will be out November 4th. That's coming out on Sanzuu Group, which is my label, and you can get that on Bandcamp or on any DSP except for Spotify. Again, if you're in Toronto on October 30th, go ahead and RSVP for my listening party. Would love to see you there. And if you can't make it to Toronto, well, you can tune in online on Bandcamp. I'll be in the chat. We'll be doing it at the same time, so you can get any questions in there, and I'll answer them at the party in Toronto. Adriel Smiley from The Cool Table will be hosting, and will be taking us on a deep dive into the music, so you won't want to miss it. So until next time, please continue supporting independent artists, and we'll speak again soon.